Luffy's about to awaken the ultimate power that he'll need to take down Emu and all of the Holy Knights, and Joy Boy is the one who's gonna help him, because with the latest chapter, it seems like Luffy is finally gonna tap into the inherited will, the power, and more importantly, the memories of Nika and Joy Boy that have been waiting in his devil fruit all along. And with all of the truly insane things going on in Elbaf right now, you might have actually missed that Luffy did something that has never happened in the story before. Check this out. Chopper and Scopper Gaban fall from the Sun Realm down into the underworld, right? But after they land, we all of a sudden see Luffy just casually saying that, oh, Chopper just fell down from there. Which I admit maybe at first glance seems like nothing. But Oda even makes it a bigger deal later with Sanji because the cook says, wait, you saw them? And Luffy just goes, yeah, nope. And then he goes on to even wonder how he knew that it was even Chopper to begin with. So this seems to be a pretty big deal, right? But you see, the really crazy part is that that's not the only interesting hockey feat that Oda is showing off in this chapter. Like, we're really going all out recently because at the end of the chapter, Luffy seems to recognize Emu's huge hockey blast. Now, don't get me wrong here, it's not anything like, yo dude, that's Emu. You know, that one evil dude who took over the world 800 years ago. He doesn't say straight up bad, but it's definitely more than just some random, oh, someone's using hockey here sense, right? Luffy seems to just clearly understand deep down that this is someone who is a menace to society, kind of like how he felt when Saturn showed up to Egghead Island. And so we now really got two things going on from what I can tell here. Luffy can now sense things from a crazy faraway distance, and he can tell specifically who he is sensing if he's familiar with them at the very least, and maybe even not. And with both of these cases, we honestly haven't seen much like it in the story before, at least from Luffy. Because we have seen these powers shown by some other characters, like there was that one time that Green Bull recognized Shanks' hockey in Wano, and then of course Emu themselves nearly went completely crazy when he felt Joy Boy's hockey during Egghead, but that's kind of about it, I think. We're talking about top hockey feats from probably the greatest hockey master in all of One Piece, and then the god who literally rules the world. And so we've got to ask the question, is the long-range observation and the sensing people, is that two different powers, or are they the same single thing? Are they both part of the voice of all things, or is Luffy tapping into one power and then a completely different one for both of these, you know, abilities? And for this video, I'm just going to treat them as the same power-up, just so we can talk about them together at the same time, but keep in mind that they might just be separate things. Now, let's break it down because I think that there are a number of options for what is actually going on here and what this power could actually be. And first of all, I think this could be related to Luffy's own devil fruit and the spirit of its previous users. And secondly, it could be something to do with Loki and his very mysterious powers too. Third, it could be related to, as I just said, the voice of all things. Or fourth, I don't know, maybe it's just something about the weather in Elbaf? No, I know this sounds weird, but really, that's a somehow actual possibility that we need to talk about. But if I'm allowed to pick an option to start with, please, I'd like to talk about this power having something to do with his hockey and his devil fruit. So a devil hockey power, a hockey fruit wombo combo. Anyways, you kind of know what I mean here, right? Let's jump back to chapter 1122, because this is where Oda blew the entire community away by revealing Joy Boy's hockey from this knot right here. And it also is the first time that we saw Emu legitimately scared. So in this chapter, we have Emu sensing hockey from all the way across the ocean and being able to identify the source of that hockey quite clearly. Both things, once again, that we're now seeing from Luffy in this very chapter. So I'm just over here thinking that that's gotta be some sort of special connection between Emu and Joy Boy with all this crazy hockey stuff going on right now, right? Like, can it really be a coincidence that Luffy is awakening this new long-range sensing power right as Emu shows up in Elbaf? Huh? I mean, this is the very first arc that these two super important characters, you know, kind of interact directly, and suddenly Luffy starts showing off new abilities. I don't know, seems like it would line up pretty nicely and not be a coincidence, right? And well, yeah, I think so, but part of me also thinks that this new ability we're seeing from Luffy isn't actually his own power, at least not yet, because you can't forget that we've speculated for a very long time that soul, or at least willpower, can actually live on inside of devil fruits, right? You've probably heard about this idea. And since Joy Boy once had the Nika fruit, then just makes a ton of sense, I think, to me that something about Joy Boy lingering lingering, or his will lingering in the fruit is now reacting to Imu's presence here in Elbaf. Like that 800-year-old spirit felt Imu's presence and straight up said, all right, put me in the coach. I think this is something a little bit above your pay grade, Luffy, and, potentially someone like Joy Boy kind of taking over part of Luffy's will, something we've already seen with Gear 5 before to a certain degree, where it doesn't feel 100% like Luffy. And of course, we've talked about the idea of devil fruits having wills many years throughout the story, and on this channel, the jailer guards of Impel Down were basically completely taken over by their devil fruits, and to awaken a devil fruit, your soul has to line up perfectly with the true nature of what you've been eating. Now, there's even the idea that some devil fruits choose their users, since so many devil fruit users have personality that do line up exactly with their fruit's power. So yeah, devil fruits containing the souls of personalities of their past users is not really a new concept whatsoever. Now, just to clarify, I'm not saying that Joy Boy or Nika are just gonna straight, take over Luffy completely or anything like that, but think of it more like Joy Boy is a new cook in the kitchen and he's throwing some new spices in the pot together with Luffy, which, if that were to be true, then I think it's just kind of gonna kickstart Luffy's new abilities completely to sense the world around him to a much higher degree, on top, of course, of potentially many other new power-ups related to Gear 5 and the true nature of the Nika fruit. But now I want to talk about more what this power-up actually seems to be doing, what it actually is. It kind of seems like a wide-range haki, a little bit similar to what Imu showed when he sensed Joy Boy's haki, really. And we can even compare it to Enel's mantra observation haki in Skypiea, where he could practically sense everything going on in the Sky Islands. That at least seems to be what Luffy is getting here, and it's all happening because the old spirit of the past Nika Devil Fruit users are reacting to Imu's presence on the island and now giving Luffy a little bit of a kick in the butt to actually learn these new powers. And that's honestly not really too different from how Luffy has learned powers in the past. It's kind of like the definition of anything you can do, I can probably do too, and probably a little bit better. We've seen so many times in the story where he will just see a new move or a new power and then just use it himself. Like, remember the shave powers in Enies Lobby, or when he taught himself Future Sight literally while fighting Katakuri in Whole Cake Island. So there's a high chance that this is just the very same concept now on Elbaf. He's just getting that first taste from the old spirit of Joy Boy that has been inside of him all along, or at least it's the first real time that I can remember him getting this kind of boost from his devil fruits, will, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. You can let me know if you think of any other examples from the story that I might have missed here. Now, if you're feeling like this is just a little bit too weird, why would Luffy just now be unlocking these old suppressed powers? Well, you literally just have to look at the latest chapter where Oda is straight up giving us Gunko unlocking suppressed memories due to her interactions with Brook, and Oda is setting the table for us here by showing us the very same idea back to back twice right in the same chapters. And so really the big idea I want to boil it down to is that the more Luffy's gonna interact with Imu, the more he might just be able to access or learn powers that past users of the Nika fruit once had. Specifically, Joy Boy. Who knows, maybe we'll have a whole meta Luffy talking to Joy Boy interaction, kind of like we got with Naruto and Kurama in, Naruto, of course. I will have to say that there is one thing that is kind of holding me back a little bit from being all on board with this idea, because usually Luffy will get a new power because of his own hard work or his own creativity, so having a full power buff like this where he might be passively getting new abilities because of the inherited powers of his devil fruit seems a little bit different, from the whole hard work and creativity things we had so far in the shonen spirit of the show. But again, who knows? He got Gear 5th by just dying, which isn't exactly hard work, so maybe getting a new power up this way isn't all that surprising, and maybe Luffy has kind of reached the limit of his own fruit, not even knowing what his real fruit even is, so he might need a little kick in the butt now to use it to its full potential, right? But it does make me want to find some other ways to explain this new power potentially too that we're seeing from Luffy right now. So let's wipe the board completely clean here and talk about how Loki could be the key to unlocking Luffy's full potential instead. Because Luffy's actually not the only one demonstrating this long-range haki power here in Elbaf. Scopper showed off some pretty impressive range earlier in the arc, and Loki is doing it in this very same chapter by sensing both Chopper and Gaban and also feeling Imu's crazy haki blast. So what is it with these two characters? Well, let's be honest here, these two have had a weird connection right from the start of this arc. I mean, they kind of seemed like longtime buddies from basically their first conversation. Luffy just ran off, kind of sensing Loki somewhere and being like, hey, this is interesting. Let me just leave everyone else behind and run straight to Loki. They kind of give off the same chaotic energy vibes, and they both became friends with all of the giant animals really easily. Plus, Luffy even seemed to know that Loki couldn't really hurt him, Zoro, Sanji, and the other giants once he got out of the chains. Like, he kind of knew about Loki's true intentions. So if you take all of their interactions so far that we got, plus the fact that they both show the same kind of awareness in this chapter, you get all the ingredients for a really great theory pie. My favorite type of pie, by the way. So, what if Loki has already unlocked this type of, unique long-range sensing haki earlier in his life, and he's been now rubbing off on Luffy during their short time together that they've interacted, which sounds a little bit far-fetched at first. I mean, they've only seen each other twice in this one day, but hey, I mean, we have talked about how Luffy can learn abilities that he sees from other people really weirdly quickly. So I wouldn't exactly say that it's impossible. And it's not like Loki has been busting out long-range observation in front of Luffy, before, but maybe just by being near each other, Luffy's actually learning something new here. Or, just hear me out here, because we do know that Loki has some sort of special devil fruit, that could be a factor. We still don't know what it is, but it's supposedly the legendary, most powerful fruit in all of Elbaf. So what if Loki just has some unique amplification power that is part of his devil fruit ability? I mean, I know he still has the sea stone handcuff on and everything, but maybe this one part of his power is leaking through a little bit now that he has most of the chains off, except that one shackle on his, is it on his foot, right? Yeah, that's where it was. I mean, don't forget that sea stone doesn't totally negate every single aspect of a devil fruit, like transformation, so that could be how both Loki and Luffy are using this super far range observation power. At the end of this chapter, honestly, Loki even talks about how they will need his power specifically to save Elbaf, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure how much fighting he's going to be able to do here. He was just mortally wounded like an hour ago, so how is he supposed to now get up and fight Emu and the Holy Knights? Then again, it's Loki, and Oda has been hyping my boy up really hard, so we'll see. And none of that really matters if his power can buff the abilities of other people, again, like we might be seeing with Luffy here. Or again, maybe there is more to his devil fruit altogether. Like, wouldn't it be crazy if it can heal him as soon as he gets set free? Like the Phoenix Fruit 2.0? Or another idea I had was that he has like the Adam Tree Fruit or something crazy where he can connect to the tree itself and draw power from it. Think about how we saw Blackbeard's crewmate Pizarro merge with the entirety of Pirate Island. So maybe Loki can do something similar here with the island of Elbaf, and that is how he's aware of everything going on the island. That would certainly be a very OP ability, and you also get a very OP opportunity by joining my official Patreon, where you get access to a ton of exclusive artwork, member-only videos, early reactions, community polls, so many more things we only do over there, all by joining there. And yeah, you can check it out with the link in the description below. Also, we have a free weekly newsletter. You don't even need to, give anything. You can just have it for free and see what's up with One Piece. Thanks so much to everyone who already does it. But yeah, let's get back to the chapter here. All right, I can definitely see how Loki could be having a huge effect on Luffy, and it's possible that we've only just started to see the beginning of what this will actually do for the Straw Hats captain. But what if this power-up isn't tied to Loki or Emu for that matter at all? Like, forget the giant prince, and let's throw out the 800-year-old fight between Emu and Joy Boy here for a second. What if it's straight up just Luffy? Well, then there are a few other ways that my boy here could just be getting better all on his own, which might just be the most fun option potentially, and there is one power in particular that has been getting a little bit more action in recent arcs. We're talking about the voice of all things. You remember that power? Yeah? The thing that lets some people hear the voices of animals and some inanimate objects even. I mean, Roger had it and could use it to hear Sea Kings talk and even understand the basic message of the pony poneglyphs. It does seem like Momo has it and uses it to talk with the giant elephant Zunisha, unless that's a special ancient weapon power, and I'd also say that Shanks probably has it, and that's how he sent that warning to Green Bull in Wano. And Luffy, of course, has that power too, but for the longest time, he hasn't really shown that he can use it very well or is even aware that it's a power he should maybe be investing some time in. Or at least he can't consciously control it whenever he wants. That was at least until we got to Egghead Island, where he kind of used it to talk with the giant robot Emmet when you think about it, but that might have more so been Emmet using the voice of all things with Luffy, maybe, rather than the other way around, but Luffy was the only person who could understand it. And so if this power is going to play a big role in the story, now in Elbaf sure seems a good time for Luffy to learn how to finally fully control and harness it. And honestly, the voice of all things seems like the best answer to explain why Luffy can suddenly understand that Chopper is the one who fell down in the underworld, because he should know Chopper's voice or presence very well since they, are around each other all the time. So that could explain why he recognized Chopper but not Scopper Gaban, which I guess thinking about it could then mean that Loki has the same power as well, but that makes sense since he's being portrayed as pretty much the most important giant in the story and kind of a giant parallel to Luffy in pretty much every way, all the way down to proclaiming himself to be the sun god. But if that's not it, then maybe it's just straight up a new type of haki that Oda is starting to introduce here. Maybe the first step of the haki that Scopper is using to actually cut the Holy Knights. I mean, if you remember way back in Alabasta, Zoro kind of showed an ability similar to the voice of all things when he learned how to cut Mr. One's steel body. So maybe the voice of all things, or whatever this new haki ability is, could be the secret to defeating the Holy Knights after all as well. But overall, I'm pretty sure that this has got to be one of those three things. Like, this part of the chapter just keeps sticking out to me as Oda's trying to show us something really important here. All right, so now we've talked a lot about what the power-up is, but there is actually another thing that we should talk about that could explain why Luffy might be developing this power right now, which might be even more important. Like, the why might be bigger than the what. Because do you remember this? We saw this so long ago that you might have just forgotten, but there is something about Elbaf that this explorer here really wanted people to know about and warn them about. And we kind of know that it is not time shenanigans. So what if there is something about Elbaf itself, or the actual Atom Tree, that is the reason that Luffy is now showing off new abilities? Well, let's take a look. First off, there's already a lot of really weird stuff going on here. The tree is just stupidly massive, of course, and keep in mind we're only seeing the very top of the tree. The rest of its trunk, or perhaps the roots, are probably way deep underwater or even underground. On top of that, we were told that the environment in Elbaf is basically perfect for any sort of ancient technology like the sea clouds or the rainbow bridges, which is why Vegapunk worked so hard to recreate that same atmosphere on Egghead Island. Yeah, it's pretty safe to say that there is something really odd with this island that could be causing some new powers to emerge as well. Now, what could that be? Well, keep in mind that Elbaf has not been conquered ever since the Void Century. It is one of the very few places in the world that has been mostly untouched by the world government and Emu, and in a weird way is the technologically most advanced country since they still have ancient kingdom tech here on the island. Although I gotta say, I'm not sure why, since they have clearly been here before and could basically take over whenever they wanted, but maybe not. I don't know. They even seem to have some sort of deal with the old King Harold we learn about in this chapter, which we were speculating about way back. But regardless, maybe the reason that Luffy is awakening new powers here is because this island has been mostly untouched by Emu's evil for so long. It could have even been Joy Boy's or Nika's original home country. I mean, just think about the place with the most lore about Nika. It is right here in Elbaf. So it would make sense that this is where the original Nika even came from. Or if Nika is just truly a myth, which I really hope it's not, I've been having so much fun talking about Nika and speculating who they really were, then maybe the concept of the god of liberation and destruction was straight up created here on Elbaf. So could it just be Luffy's fruit that is reacting to this place specifically instead of Emu or Loki? I mean, I certainly think that we can't rule this out as a really good possibility, because if we go through all of Elbaf Elbaf without learning why this place is so freaking special, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed, not gonna lie. I think you'd probably be as well. Alright, but we've now spent a lot of time talking about Luffy awakening some new abilities and powers and why that's happening, but probably the single most important thing to you and to me, of course, is how is even all of this gonna, affect the future of the arc, the fight that's gonna happen. And there are really two ways I think that all of this could go down. The first path is that Luffy unlocks his power and basically now straight up masters it during Elbaf. And this could happen for a number of good reasons. Like, we all know that Luffy would need to learn this new haki that Scopper was using to have any chance against the Holy Knight, so it could make sense now that Scopper is down in the underworld for Luffy to fully awaken and master this power, get some real quick pointers from a hurt Scopper Gaban, then go up and use the power to completely kick the booty of all the Holy Knights and even force Imu out of the country. It may not play out exactly like that, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm getting at here, right? But let's be honest, it usually takes Luffy at least some amount of time to master any new haki technique or any technique in general. I mean, remember, he spent 2 entire years learning haki during the time skip. Then during Wano, we saw him, take a few weeks at least to learn advanced armament haki, though I guess he did just insta-learn advanced Conquerors and advanced Future Sight, with Kaido and Katakuri, but usually it takes at least some time to master after unlocking the initial ability. And so if he doesn't master this new technique pretty quickly, then I could just see him learning enough of it to make a difference in the battle in the Sun Realm. Like, maybe he can actually fight against the Holy Knights for long enough that Imu's power runs out, or they are all forced to go back to Marijua. Basically, Luffy just doing enough to barely scrape out a victory or a draw here without fully mastering the new power quite yet. But also, of course, not mastering these powers could lead to some very dark consequences too. I mean, think a post-time skip version of Sabaody type, that we've been speculating about before. Like, just imagine if Luffy is not able to defeat Imu and the Holy Knights here. What happens to the giants that Imu transformed into demons? Would Luffy be able to free them? I'm not sure about that. And it kind of seems like a whole other Gear 5th ability that he may need way more time to actually unlock, the entire freeing people from darkness that I think the fruit probably has. So I could easily see a situation where Dory, Broggy, and the other giants are taken back with Imu, while Luffy, Loki, maybe the crew, and some of the others are barely able to escape here with their lives. And I do think we need to ask another really serious question here. Is Luffy with a brand new ability really gonna be strong enough to take down this possessed version of Gunko like Imu? I mean, you saw what Imu/Gunko did to the giants, right? That seems truly god tier, and we still don't even know how strong they really are in their demon forms. But there may actually be one more reason that Luffy cannot fight Gunko. Something you've probably never thought about even once, because it just randomly popped into my head while reading the last chapter. Because what if Gunko is actually Luffy's mom? Which sounds crazy at first, trust me, I thought so too, but the more I thought about it, the more I looked into it and spent days thinking about it, there is just so much evidence for it. Her connection to Brook, Luffy's father's secret history with the government, her revolutionary-inspired hat and goggles. Trust me, there is so much more there, and if you want to see exactly why this is my new favorite theory on this channel, and why that would mean that Brook is also Luffy's grandfather, you can watch that video right here. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Extra special thank you to all of you fantastic Patreons right here on the screen. All of you are the best. Again, so much over there. And I will see you in the next video talking about some godly fruits. Yeah.